Okay, the last story I did was about the world's worst National Guardsman being disarmed at the airport. And I started to think if I have any other travel stories, and there's a few. But to do another one, I think I don't even need to leave the airport. It's a different trip, and I was flying to, I don't even remember where, but I had a connection I was making through Atlanta. And if you've ever been to Atlanta, you know that it's a really big airport, of course. And all of the terminals are connected by that train that runs between. So I'm making my switch from one terminal to another, and I go down into the belly of the airport, and I'm getting on the train, and it's really busy, and there's a lot of people getting on and off. It's almost like the peak hour at the subway in New York. So I get onto the train, and a few seconds later, a mother with two other kids gets on. And one of them's a baby, and the other one's like a 3-year-old or 4-year-old, mobile, but not like capable of reason or advanced function that you expect with older kids. So I'm just standing there doing my thing with my carry-on, and one of this woman's kids starts screaming, and she starts fussing at it or whatever parents do. And while she's doing this, the other one's like looking around, and all of a sudden he makes a bolt for the door, the open door of the train, and just then we hear the announcement, "Warning, doors are closing and will not reopen." So I put two and two together really quickly. This Mombie's totally out of touch. She's not monitoring her kid. And this kid is about to run out and be trapped on the other side of the doors in the busiest airport on the East Coast. And this is probably not going to end well for anybody. And I decide that as the only person who's paying attention here, I should act. So I reach out my hand and I grab the kid who's run out the door by the scruff of his shirt. And I rip him back in because the doors are closing and they did not reopen. And so the kid gets pulled back. And he's sort of flung down because it's a rip move. It's an emergency situation. And he falls down, and you know how kids, they don't process really well. So they're startled by some things. He's not hurt, but he's surprised. And, of course, he starts doing the wail scream that children do. And I'm like, well, whatever, it's a small price to pay. He's back in the train. And Mombie is just now looking up. She hears the ululating cry of her offspring, and she sees her kid sitting on the floor of the train, which is steaming towards Terminal 3 now, and she sees me standing over him, and I look back at her, and I expect she's going to thank me for saving her kid from being sold into child slavery, and instead she takes her magazine that she has and whaps me in the face with it, and she starts hitting me, and she's not really in the mood to listen to an explanation of how I solved a big problem she was about to have. So she starts screaming that I've touched her son. I'm touching her son. And the kid's not communicating. She's just making this shit up. This is one of those situations where the disparity in what people are willing to believe is really, really off. So she's like, he was touching my son. He molested my son. And other people, I guess, had seen it because no one reacts. And she keeps repeating this, accusing me of pederasty. And she keeps swinging at me. And we're getting to the point where I'm just about to retaliate. And I keep telling her, I didn't do anything. Leave me alone. I'm trying to help you. And this illogical breeder keeps swinging. And the next terminal, fortunately, is my get off. And she gets off with me. And I will give you one guess who was on my flight. Yeah. So she is seated one row behind me on the plane across the aisle. And I feel this woman glowering at me the entire flight. And I remember this was a grad school interview. So we get to the school. We get to the city where the school is, I get off and I get ahead of them because I don't want another incident on this side, because now the school's got some eyes on me. And I'm meeting one of the professors who's supposed to be escorting me around for the weekend, and we're meeting and we're talking, and the professor like wants to have a conversation in the terminal, and I want to get away. And she catches up to us with her kids, and she sees me talking to someone, and she takes one more shot at me, and she looks at me and goes, "Pervert!" And the professor's like, "What was that all about?" And I told the professor that that woman was on my flight and she had Tourette syndrome. And that turned out to be a really good excuse. And it was one I would go on to use a lot more in life. So if any of you ever get into a jam like that, I do recommend saying that you or someone you know has Tourette syndrome to explain your actions or their actions. And I also recommend not ever helping a parent with young children. Until next time, guys.